When it comes to relationships, most people pray and ask God for guidance, but deep down they still try to force what they want instead of listening to the signs He's already showing them. And sometimes God's no is not thunder in the sky. It's not a booming voice. It's subtle, it's consistent, it's quiet but undeniable. The truth is, if you pay attention, God will reveal that someone is not meant for you long before the heartbreak, long before the damage, long before the years wasted. One clear sign is confusion. God is not the author of confusion. He is the God of clarity and peace. If every time you think of this person, your spirit is unsettled, if every decision with them feels like chaos, if your peace disappears when they come close, then you already have your answer. God's will is not heavy and frantic. It carries peace even in difficulty. If confusion is louder than peace, that's not from Him. Another sign is constant compromise of your values. If being with someone requires you to shrink your faith, lower your standards, or silence who you are in God just to make them comfortable, then God is telling you they are not for you. Love should grow you closer to Him, not pull you away. And if every time you leave their presence you feel a little weaker in your faith, a little less committed to what you believe, that is God's warning. The third sign is doors that never open. Some people chase a relationship for years, and no matter how hard they try, it never clicks, it never flows, it never lasts. That's not bad luck, that's protection. God will sometimes block what you think you want because He sees what you cannot see. If all you face are closed doors, misunderstandings, and roadblocks, maybe it's not the devil resisting you, maybe it's God redirecting you. The fourth sign is absence of growth. When God brings someone into your life, they push you forward, they help you expand, they water your gifts, they challenge you to rise. But if all you feel is stagnation, if you are shrinking instead of growing, then you're with someone God never sent. The wrong person will drain your purpose, the right one will ignite it. The fifth sign is lack of alignment and vision. Two people can love each other but still not be meant for each other. If their path is pulling them one way and yours is pulling you another, and no matter how much you try, it just won't align, then that is God's way of saying, this is not the one. Love is not enough to keep two people together if God did not design your paths to walk in the same direction. The sixth sign is that wise counsel keeps warning you. God will often use people you trust, your family, your mentors, your spiritual leaders, to open your eyes. And while you may think they don't understand, sometimes they see the danger you refuse to see. If every person who loves you keeps pointing out red flags, pay attention. God often uses outside voices to confirm what you already feel inside. And the seventh sign is a restless spirit. You can fake smiles, you can argue with yourself, you can silence your thoughts, but you cannot silence the Spirit of God within you. When God is trying to pull you away from someone, your soul will not rest. You'll feel uneasy in their presence. You'll feel heavy after conversations. You'll feel God tugging at your heart to let go. That's not fear. That's not paranoia. That's divine protection. Some of you are fighting for people God has already released you from. You are begging Him to bless what He never sent, and you are calling it loyalty when it's actually disobedience. If these signs keep showing up in your relationship, you don't need another prophecy. You don't need another dream. You already have your answer. God loves you too much to let you destroy your destiny by holding on to someone He never approved. When you start asking God for signs about a relationship, you have to prepare your heart for the truth that He might give you an answer you don't want to hear. Many times people already know what God is saying deep down, but they are hoping for permission to stay where their heart is comfortable, not where their spirit is safe. But the longer you fight God's voice, the more you delay His blessing. When God is pointing out that someone isn't for you, He isn't punishing you. He's protecting you from something that could destroy your peace, your purpose, and your future. And when you learn to surrender, you'll see that what He's preparing is always better than what you're trying to hold on to. When confusion dominates a relationship, you can't ignore it. God does not operate in disorder. If every conversation turns into miscommunication, if every plan feels shaky, if every step feels like guesswork and uncertainty, then it's not a coincidence. God does not guide with anxiety. He guides with assurance. And some of you are trying to romanticize chaos, calling it passion, calling it love, when in reality, it's just instability. You shouldn't be living on the edge of doubt every single day. When it's from God, even in hard times, there is still clarity. You may not have every answer, but you won't constantly be tormented by indecision. Compromise might feel small in the moment, but over time it robs you of your identity. Think about it. If you start giving up little pieces of yourself just to make someone stay, how much of you will be left after years? If someone makes you feel like your standards are too high, your faith is too strong, or your dreams are too much, then that's a sign they are not your partner in destiny. The person God sends won't make you feel ashamed of your light. They'll encourage it to shine brighter. But the wrong person will slowly dim you until you no longer recognize who you are. You can't call that love because love never destroys your essence. Closed doors are another way God speaks, and often the clearest. Some people cry when relationships fall apart, not realizing that the breakup was divine intervention. If every time you try to fix things, it still crumbles, that's God refusing to let you settle. And here's the truth, rejection is sometimes the greatest protection you will ever receive. You don't know what lies ahead, but God does. You don't see the pain waiting down that road, but God does. And sometimes the only way he can protect you is by breaking something that you are desperately trying to build. That's why you can't judge his love by temporary pain. His no is always tied to a greater yes. Growth is one of the most overlooked signs in relationships. The right connection will push you closer to your destiny, but the wrong one will leave you stagnant. Ask yourself, am I better with this person or am I worse? Do I pray more, believe more, pursue more, or am I shrinking into fear, laziness, and compromise? A relationship should never be a cage, it should be wings. If someone is constantly holding you back, if you feel like you've stopped growing since they came into your life, then that's not from God. Because God will never tie you to someone who suffocates your calling. And then there's alignment. This is where many people get trapped. They love each other, but their purposes don't line up. You want to serve, they want to shine. You want peace, they want chaos. You want to move forward, they want to stay the same. No matter how hard you try, your paths refuse to merge. That doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means they're not your person. Love without alignment is a battle, not a blessing. And you don't want to spend your life fighting to force something that was never meant to fit. Pay attention to wise counsel. God often speaks through the voices of people who love you. When your closest friends, your mentors, your family members consistently raise the same concerns, don't dismiss it as them being against your happiness. Sometimes they see what you're blinded to because emotions cloud your judgment. God will send confirmation through those around you. He will warn you before you walk into danger. If everybody who truly cares about you is waving red flags, take a step back and ask yourself if God is trying to protect you through them. The restlessness you feel inside is not just your imagination. Your spirit knows when something isn't right. You can fake peace for a while, but you can't silence the truth that lives inside of you. If every time you pray you feel resistance, if every time you're with them your joy feels forced, if every time you think of the future you feel uneasy, then that's God speaking louder than your desires. That unrest is the Spirit of God urging you to pay attention. You don't need a sign in the sky. You already carry the answer in your heart. What keeps many people stuck is the fear of letting go. They say, what if I never find anyone else? What if this is the best I'll ever have? That's not faith talking. That's fear. And fear will keep you tied to places God is trying to rescue you from. You have to believe that if God is asking you to release someone, it's because he has something better prepared. He doesn't take away without the intention to restore. And the truth is, you don't lose when you let go of the wrong person. You win peace, you win freedom, and you make room for the one God has ordained. The danger of ignoring these signs is that pain multiplies over time. What looks like a small red flag today can become a lifelong wound tomorrow. That uneasiness you dismiss as just me overthinking might be the very thing that saves you from years of heartbreak. God doesn't give signs to torment you. He gives them to protect you. But he will not force you to obey. You have free will. He'll warn you, he'll close doors, he'll disturb your spirit, but ultimately you decide whether you listen. And every decision carries consequences. Sometimes the hardest part is that the person you want so badly may not even be bad. They may be kind, loving, and good-hearted, but still not meant for you. That's why discernment is so important. Just because someone is good doesn't mean they're good for you. Timing matters, purpose matters, alignment matters. And when those don't match, love alone won't sustain you. God's choice is always rooted in his plan for your future, not just your emotions in the present. So many people confuse attachment with destiny. You can be attached to someone simply because of history, comfort, or fear of starting over. But attachment is not the same as calling. If you're only staying because it feels safe, that's not love. That's fear disguised as commitment. True love adds to your life. It doesn't drain it. True love brings rest, not exhaustion. True love partners with your destiny. It doesn't compete with it. It's also important to remember that delay is not denial. Just because God removes someone from your life now doesn't mean he's leaving you empty forever. Sometimes he's preparing you, sometimes he's preparing them, sometimes he's simply preparing the timing. But what he will never do is tie you to the wrong person just to give you temporary comfort. His love is too deep to compromise your future for your feelings. When you look back on your life, you will see that the relationships God ended were actually stepping stones to something greater. The pain you feel now will turn into gratitude later. One day you'll thank him for the unanswered prayers, for the relationships that never worked out, for the doors that stayed shut. Because when his true blessing arrives, you'll finally understand why those other things had to fail. And you'll realize that his no was never rejection, it was always redirection. If you find yourself in a relationship where these signs are loud and clear, don't ignore them. Don't silence God's voice because it doesn't match your desire. Don't beg him to bless what he's already blocking. Trust his wisdom more than your emotions. Believe that his plan is greater than your temporary attachment. The sooner you release what isn't for you, the sooner you'll step into what is. And remember, God will never send someone who makes you doubt him, lose yourself, or compromise your peace. He will never send someone who pulls you away from your purpose. The person he has for you will carry confirmation, not confusion. They will align with your destiny, not compete with it. They will help you grow, not hold you back. And above all, they will be a reflection of His love, not a distraction from it. When God shows you that someone is not meant for you, it rarely comes in one dramatic moment. More often, it comes in layers like gentle whispers, subtle nudges, repeated warnings that you can either listen to or ignore. The danger is not that God isn't speaking, but that we often silence His voice because it clashes with our desires. When you want someone badly enough, you'll convince yourself the red flags aren't real. You'll justify their behavior. You'll excuse the chaos. You'll tell yourself that love requires suffering. But love as God designed, it is not supposed to be built on constant pain. His love teaches, it uplifts, it corrects, but it does not torment. If all you have is torment, that's not love, that's bondage. Think about the times you've had to wrestle with constant inner unease. You go to bed thinking about it. You wake up with the same questions. Every prayer ends with the same unsettled spirit. That's not coincidence. That's the Spirit of God working overtime to show you the truth. But because it doesn't match your plans, you brush it off as doubt, as insecurity, as overthinking. In reality, your soul knows what your heart is trying to deny. God has given you spiritual instincts. He wired your spirit to sense danger long before your mind catches up. That is why ignoring that restlessness always leads to regret. Sometimes the most dangerous trap is not obvious toxicity, but subtle distraction. Maybe they're not abusive, maybe they're not openly harmful, but slowly they pull you away from prayer, from purpose, from passion. You find yourself less disciplined, less motivated, less connected to God. You start neglecting the things that once mattered. And because it happens gradually, you don't notice the shift until you've drifted far. That is one of the clearest signs that someone isn't for you. Anything or anyone that consistently pulls you away from your source is not a blessing, no matter how good it looks. Closed doors are hard to accept, but they are some of God's greatest gifts. Think of the relationships you begged God to save, but now, looking back, you can see clearly why it had to end. That's the beauty of hindsight. It reveals what protection felt like rejection in the moment. And yet, even with that knowledge, many people still fight God when He closes doors. They chase after what He's already removed, knocking on doors He Himself locked. The truth is, if God shuts it, it wasn't safe for you. If He ended it, it was never designed to carry you into your future. You can either surrender and move forward, or resist and stay stuck in cycles that will keep breaking you. Another trap is thinking you can change someone who God has already revealed is not aligned with you. You tell yourself, maybe if I just love them harder, maybe if I just pray more, maybe if I give it more time, they'll become what I need. But here's the truth, you are not the Savior. You are not the one who changes hearts. That is God's role, and sometimes His answer is that this person isn't meant to change for you because they're not meant to be with you. You waste years trying to mold someone into what only God can make them while missing the person God has already molded for you. You also need to pay attention to what your peace does around them. Peace is not just a feeling, it's a confirmation. God speaks through peace. If you lose peace every time you're near them, if your joy feels heavy, if you're always second guessing, that's God showing you it's not His will. Because when God blesses you with someone, even when challenges come, there is a foundation of peace that cannot be shaken. But when you're forcing something, that peace never shows up. And if you live without peace long enough, you start to normalize dysfunction. You start to believe this is just what relationships are supposed to feel like. But that's not true. God never designed love to feel like constant torment. Sometimes the clearest sign comes through the people closest to you. The ones who love you, the ones who want the best for you, they see red flags you overlook. And often, because you're emotionally invested, you reject their warnings. You call them judgmental. You say they don't understand. You tell yourself they're jealous. But later, when the pain comes, you realize they were only voicing what you were too blinded to admit. God uses community to protect us. He speaks through voices we trust. And when those voices consistently tell you something isn't right, you need to listen. It doesn't mean they're perfect or always correct, but if multiple wise, trusted people all see the same danger, it's not coincidence. It's God trying to save you from what you refuse to see. One of the hardest realities to accept is that someone can be good and still not be good for you. They can be kind, respectful, generous, and yet not meant to walk the path God designed for your life. This is where discernment is critical. Because if you only look at surface traits, you'll confuse goodness with alignment. But destiny requires more than good intentions. It requires compatibility with God's plan for your future. Two good people can destroy each other if they're not aligned. And the fact that someone isn't your person doesn't make them bad. It just means their assignment is different. What keeps many people stuck is attachment. You confuse history with destiny. You say, we've been together too long to let it go now, but time invested in the wrong thing doesn't make it the right thing. History is not proof of destiny. Comfort is not confirmation. You can be comfortable in bondage and still be miserable in your soul. Attachment will lie to you, telling you that leaving will break you, when in reality staying is what's breaking you. Attachment is about fear. Destiny is about faith, and you cannot walk into God's best while clinging to fear. Think about what ignoring these signs costs you. Every year you spend with the wrong person is a year you delay the right one. Every moment you spend forcing what God is breaking is a moment you're not growing into the future He has for you. Relationships are not neutral. They either push you closer to purpose or pull you further from it. And if you're constantly drained, constantly restless, then you're wasting time on someone God already said no to. You can't afford to gamble with your destiny like that. And let's be honest, sometimes you already know the truth, but you don't want to face it. You pray for signs and God gives them, but you explain them away. You ask him to show you, and he does, but you rationalize it. You cry for direction, but when he directs you to let go, you call it too painful. But pain doesn't mean it's wrong. Pain can mean healing. Pain can mean redirection. God's answers aren't always easy, but they are always for your good. And if you keep ignoring him, you'll find yourself crying later over wounds you could have avoided. The truth is, love as God designed it is not supposed to destroy you. It's not supposed to strip you of who you are. It's not supposed to make you feel like you're constantly begging for scraps of affection. That's not love. That's survival. And survival is not God's plan for your heart. His plan is fullness, abundance, peace, joy. Anything less than that is not his best for you. That's why you have to pay attention. Pay attention when peace leaves. Pay attention when doors keep closing. Pay attention when wise counsel warns you. Pay attention when your spirit feels restless. Pay attention when your values are compromised. Pay attention when growth stops. Pay attention when alignment is missing. These aren't small things. They're God's mercy trying to steer you back to safety. And the quicker you respond, the quicker you heal. The quicker you obey, the quicker he can release what he's been preparing for you all along. Because here's the truth, God's no is not punishment, it's preparation. His no is not rejection, it's protection. His no is not abandonment, it's redirection. You will never regret obeying him. You will never regret listening to his signs. You will only regret wasting time pretending you didn't see what was right in front of you. And when the right person comes, you'll know the difference. You won't have to beg for peace. It will come naturally. You won't have to compromise who you are. They'll celebrate it. You won't have to force doors open. They'll open effortlessly. You won't feel drained. You'll feel strengthened. You won't feel restless. You'll feel secure. And when that happens, you'll finally understand why God closed every wrong door before it. You'll see why he let the wrong people walk away. You'll realize it was never about punishment. It was always about protection. And that is why, if you see these signs now, don't ignore them. Don't call it coincidence. Don't explain it away. Don't delay obedience. God loves you too much to let you settle for less than his best. If he's showing you these signs, it's because he has something greater waiting. When you truly open your heart to the voice of God, you begin to realize that he never leaves you without direction. Even in relationships, he is constantly speaking, showing guiding and warning. But his voice doesn't always sound like what you expect. Sometimes it comes in that heaviness in your chest you can't shake. Sometimes it comes through the closed doors you keep banging on. Sometimes it comes through the voices of people you didn't even want advice from but needed to hear. His signs are clear. But the question is, are you willing to accept them even when they go against what you want? That's the real test. We like to tell ourselves that love is enough to make it work. But love without alignment is like planting a seed in the wrong soil. It may sprout, but it will never reach its full potential. God doesn't just look at the present feelings. He looks at the future fruit. He asks, does this person help your purpose or will they hinder it? Do they push you closer to me or do they pull you further away? Do they add to your peace or do they drain it? If the answer keeps leaning in the wrong direction, then you already know what he's saying. It's just whether you have the courage to listen. You can tell when God is not in something because it feels like striving without reward. You give and give, but nothing flourishes. You try to fix things, but it still falls apart. You try to create peace, but it's always chaos. That's because you're trying to sustain what God has already withdrawn from, and anything he withdraws from cannot last. You can spend years trying to hold it together, but without his blessing, it will eventually collapse. The question is, how much of yourself are you willing to lose in the process before you let it go? Relationships are meant to sharpen you, not shatter you. They are supposed to be a reflection of God's love, not a distortion of it. If you are constantly crying more than you are laughing, questioning more than you are trusting, enduring more than you are enjoying, then that's a sign something is wrong. God never intended for your heart to be a battlefield where you fight daily just to feel seen, valued, or respected. That is not his design. His design is companionship, encouragement, and mutual growth. Anything less than that is counterfeit. And the thing about counterfeits is they look real at first, they sound good, they feel exciting, they even give the illusion of destiny. But over time, the cracks show, the peace disappears, the confusion increases, and no matter how much effort you put in, it never produces the fruit you long for. That's because counterfeits are designed to distract you from the real thing. And God, in his mercy, will show you the signs. He'll stir your spirit, he'll allow the truth to surface, he'll give you chances to walk away. But if you ignore those chances, don't be surprised when the weight of disobedience gets heavier. One of the hardest things to accept is that God's plan for your life might not include the person you thought it would. You built dreams around them. You imagined a future with them. You told yourself they were the one. But God sees the parts of their heart you cannot see. He knows their private struggles, their hidden motives, their future decisions. And in his love for you, he says no. Not because he wants to break your heart, but because he wants to guard it. And though it hurts now, one day you'll thank him for every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every relationship that didn't last. Because in hindsight, you'll see it was never a loss. It was protection. It's dangerous to ask God for signs and then ignore them. Because the more you ignore him, the harder your heart becomes and the louder he has to speak. Sometimes what could have been a gentle nudge turns into a painful lesson simply because you wouldn't listen the first time. But you don't have to wait for the pain to learn. You can choose obedience at the first warning. You can choose to trust that his no is better than your yes. You can choose to believe that he is something greater even when you can't see it yet. If you're with someone and your values are constantly compromised, that's not a minor issue. That's not something you can overlook in the name of love. That's a fundamental sign that the relationship is not aligned with God's will. Because the person God sends won't cause you to betray yourself or your faith. They won't require you to hide your convictions. They won't make you feel guilty for loving God too much. If anything, they'll encourage it. They'll push you closer to him. They'll help you guard your heart, not exploit it. And if wise counsel keeps warning you, pay attention. That's not nagging. That's not people trying to ruin your happiness. That's God using the people around you to confirm what you already feel deep down. It's one thing if one person raises concerns, but if multiple people who genuinely love you see the same red flags, don't brush it off. Don't isolate yourself. Don't convince yourself that they just don't understand. Sometimes outsiders can see clearer than you can because they're not clouded by emotions. And while it may hurt to admit they're right, it will save you from pain you don't have to go through. Restlessness is another sign you can't afford to ignore. Peace is a gift from God. And when he's in something, peace follows. That doesn't mean there won't be challenges, but there will be a steady assurance in your spirit. But when you're with the wrong person, no matter how much you try to convince yourself otherwise, that peace never comes. You'll feel uneasy, anxious, drained. You'll go back and forth in your mind, always second-guessing, always uncertain. That is not the fruit of God's presence. That is your spirit warning you that something is off. And the longer you ignore it, the heavier it gets. The truth is, God's signs are always for your good. He's not trying to rob you of happiness. He's trying to save you from heartbreak. He's not trying to withhold love from you. He's trying to prepare the right love for you. He's not trying to make you lonely. He's trying to make sure your companionship will be purposeful and fruitful. But if you hold on to the wrong person, you block the right one from coming. If you stay in the wrong place, you delay the blessing waiting in the right place. That's why obedience is so important, because your future depends on it. Every time you ignore the signs, you're essentially telling God, I trust my feelings more than your wisdom. And that's a dangerous place to be, because feelings fade, but his wisdom never fails. Feelings change, but his plan is eternal. Feelings deceive, but his truth is consistent. If you trust your emotions more than his direction, you'll end up in places you were never meant to be, living a life far beneath what he designed. But if you trust him, even through tears, even through heartbreak, even through disappointment, you'll find yourself walking into blessings you never imagined. The person God has for you won't require you to beg for attention, beg for respect, beg for love. They won't make you feel like you're too much or not enough. They won't drain your spirit. They won't silence your voice. They won't belittle your dreams. They will add to your life, not subtract from it. They will bring peace, not confusion. They will align with your purpose, not compete against it. And when that person arrives, you'll understand why it never worked with anyone else. But you can't receive that if you're still clinging to the one God told you to let go of. You can't step into the new if you're still chained to the old. You can't embrace destiny while holding on to distraction. The quicker you obey, the quicker you heal, the quicker you release, the quicker you receive. The quicker you surrender, the quicker you step into the fullness of what God has been preparing. And when you finally do, you'll look back and realize his signs were never meant to hurt you. They were always meant to save you. When you look at your life, you'll see that God has been speaking more than you realize. Every red flag you tried to excuse, every uneasy feeling you tried to bury, every warning that came through people you trust, all of it was God trying to get your attention. He doesn't hide his will from you, but he also won't force you to obey it. He lets you choose, because real love always allows free will. That's why some of us have learned lessons the hard way, not because God didn't warn us, but because we didn't want to hear what he was saying. The truth is, you know when something isn't right. You know when you're shrinking. You know when you're constantly doubting yourself. You know when you're giving more than you're receiving. But you tell yourself stories so you can keep holding on. You say, it's just a season, it'll get better. Everyone struggles, this is normal. But deep down you feel the weight of what's wrong. Deep down you know God is pulling you away, but you're too afraid to let go. Fear of loneliness keeps you tied. Fear of starting over keeps you tied. Fear of what people will think keeps you tied. And yet God is saying, if you release this, you'll see I have more for you. Peace is one of the greatest indicators of God's presence. That doesn't mean life will be perfect, but it means there's a foundation of calm even in the storm. When the relationship is not God's will, peace doesn't stay. You might get temporary moments of relief, but it never lasts. Confusion comes back, chaos comes back, doubt comes back. That cycle is a sign. When something is from God, even in conflict, there's a sense of security that the relationship can endure. But when something isn't from Him, even the smallest problems feel like mountains because the foundation is shaky. Another sign God doesn't want you with someone is when your purpose begins to die in their presence. Maybe you once dreamed big, but now you've stopped dreaming. Maybe you once served faithfully, but now you're distracted. Maybe you once believed deeply, but now your faith feels dry. Pay attention to what happens to your soul around them. Do they water your gifts or dry them out? Do they sharpen your vision or blur it? The person God has for you won't make you smaller, they'll call you higher. They won't kill your fire, they'll fan the flame. If the opposite is happening, God is showing you clearly that this isn't His best. There's also the way God uses alignment to speak. Alignment is about more than liking the same things or having chemistry. It's about being on the same page spiritually, mentally, and purposefully. Two people can be good, but if their paths don't match, forcing it only creates pain. If you feel like you're constantly dragging someone toward where God is calling you, that's a heavy sign. Love should not be a tug of war. The right person will walk with you, not fight against you. And if no matter how hard you try, the visions don't align, that's not God being cruel, that's God being clear. And listen, God doesn't just speak through inner feelings. He'll often send confirmation through people around you. Maybe your closest friends keep warning you. Maybe your family expresses concern. Maybe mentors you trust tell you to slow down. Don't dismiss all of that as negativity. Sometimes God puts the truth in other people's mouths because He knows you won't listen to it in your own heart. If the same warnings keep showing up from different directions, don't ignore it. That's divine confirmation. Restlessness is another way He speaks. Some of you know exactly what I mean. You can't sleep at night without thinking about it. You can't pray without feeling uneasy. You're always second guessing, always questioning, always unsettled. That's not random anxiety. That's God whispering, this isn't right. The Spirit of God doesn't rest easy in the wrong place. And you can numb it for a while, distract yourself, drown it out, but it always comes back. That constant lack of rest is His mercy, not His cruelty. It's His way of nudging you toward freedom. But the danger is that when we ignore God long enough, we get used to the dysfunction. We call it normal. We say, every relationship has problems. That's true, but every relationship doesn't have torment. Every relationship doesn't have constant compromise. Every relationship doesn't steal your peace. Problems are inevitable, but peace is non-negotiable. God never designed love to feel like bondage. If love feels like chains, it's not from Him. And let's be honest, sometimes it's not that we can't see the signs, it's that we don't want to. Because letting go feels like failure. It feels like wasted time. It feels like starting from scratch, but holding on to what God never gave you will cost far more than letting it go. You'll lose years, you'll lose joy, you'll lose yourself, and in the end, you'll still end up where God was trying to lead you from the beginning. The sooner you obey, the less you'll have to recover. It's also important to understand that just because someone isn't meant for you doesn't mean they're bad. They might be good, kind, even loving, but not aligned with your purpose, and that's enough. Don't let guilt keep you in a place God told you to leave. You're not abandoning someone by obeying God. You're releasing them to their own path while you walk yours. Not every good thing is a God thing. And if it's not a God thing, it won't last. Attachment is another trap. You confuse comfort with calling. You say, I can't let go. We've been together too long, but history is not destiny. Time invested in the wrong thing doesn't turn it into the right thing. And the truth is, the more you hold on to what God said no to, the longer you delay His yes. The longer you cling to the wrong person, the longer it takes to meet the right one. Every day you stay where you're not meant to be is a day you're not walking in the fullness of what God prepared. What you have to remember is that God's signs aren't meant to ruin your life. They're meant to save it. His no is protection. His redirection is love. His restlessness is mercy. And if you trust Him enough to obey, even when it hurts, you'll discover that His plan is always better. The pain of letting go now cannot compare to the joy of what He has waiting for you. But you'll never know that if you keep fighting His will. So ask yourself, do I want temporary comfort or lasting peace? Do I want to force my way or walk in God's way? Do I want to settle for survival or step into destiny? Because the choice is yours. God won't drag you. He won't force you. He'll give you signs. He'll give you clarity. He'll give you opportunities to obey. But in the end, you have to choose whether you'll listen. And when you finally do, when you finally surrender, you'll see why it never worked with anyone else. You'll understand why He let certain people leave. You'll realize every closed door was a blessing in disguise. You'll thank Him for not giving you what you begged for. And you'll step into a love that doesn't confuse you, doesn't drain you, doesn't compromise you, but reflects His heart for you. That's why He shows you the signs, not to break you, but to build you, not to punish you, but to protect you, not to take love away, but to prepare you for the love He always intended for you. The truth is, when God shows you signs, He's not trying to confuse you, He's trying to save you. He doesn't want you wasting your years in places that can't hold your future, or with people who can't carry your calling. His love is too deep to let you settle for less than his best. So if you see the signs, don't ignore them. Don't silence his voice just because it doesn't match your desire. Trust that his no is not rejection, it's redirection. Trust that his protection is greater than your plans. And trust that what he has for you will always bring peace, alignment, growth, and joy. When you let go of what was never meant for you, you make room for what has been prepared for you all along. And that's where you'll find the kind of love that doesn't just make you happy, but makes you whole.